First, this important statement from the Liberian government. In this era of discipline and responsibility, government will not countenance nor tolerate in the interests of law and order any disruptive public demonstration without permission. The President said, notwithstanding dialogues and specific details of application to demonstrate on an issue that has not been decided by government, which demonstration will serve no useful purpose, some citizens have decided to demonstrate in defiance of the laws and constituted authority of this country. President Tolbert made this statement this morning during an emergency cabinet meeting as regards the intention of some citizens to demonstrate using the rice issue as an alibi and pretext for the promotion of lawlessness and the defiance of constituted authority. The President acquainted his official family of a letter written to him by Mr. Gabriel Bacchus Matthews, in which Mr. Matthews misquoted and misinterpreted the report of Agriculture Minister Florence Chenoweth as to the quantity of rice produced in Liberia. The letter also requested that government should consider from him and his group a donation in the amount of $19,500 to assure adequate incentive to the farmers. Dr. Tolbert told the cabinet that this offer had been rejected in an answer to Mr. Matthews, to the effect that government cannot accept any such offer as it is contrary to its solution to national problems. The rice situation has been carefully studied and has not been resolved by government. It was observed that Mr. Matthews' concern recently has always been for the consumer, ignoring the interests of the producer. This letter, it was noted, seems to be a departure from this stance. Continuing, the government release said, President Tolbert said government has made it clear that it will look carefully into the rice issue and appropriate decision will be made in the interest of both producers and consumers. In his reply to the letter, President Tolbert also reminded Mr. Matthews that threats and emotionalism could not solve the issue as the matter was being resolved by government after careful studies, taking the interests of all concerned into consideration. President Tolbert noted with great concern that there were leaflets emanating from the University of Liberia's student organizations whose leaders admitted to having prepared and circulated calling upon soldiers and policemen to violating the law and to join in the proposed demonstration. This is clearly seditious. The release notes, and government reserves the right to deal with this flagrant attempt to violate the law by inciting officers and enlisted men to act contrary to the law and against the authority of the state. Government will not countenance any such violation, and violators will be appropriately dealt with, the President stressed. Meanwhile, in flagrant violation of government's order that it will not tolerate or permit any demonstration without permission, a crowd of concerned citizens, estimated at 2,000, broke loose in the streets of Monrovia, protesting against a recommendation made to the President by the Ministry of Agriculture, proposing an increase in the price of rice. Businesses are at standstill in the city, and parents have been warned to keep their children indoors as constabulary agents had been ordered to bring the situation under control and ensure the safety of the public. On April 12, the Justice Ministry issued a strong warning advising parents to keep their children indoors, while the general public was asked to heed to the notice. The warning, broadcast on radio and television, further stated that any such demonstration was a direct challenge to and defiance of government's authority, which it will not tolerate. Meanwhile, effective immediately, a curfew has been called by the government of Liberia because of what was described as rampant vandalism, looting, and hooliganism. All persons are required to vacate the streets and go to their places of residence. Anyone found in the streets, according to the Ministry of Justice, could be shot. President Tolbert has once again underscored the importance of self-awareness by Liberians that the development of Liberia is solely the responsibility of every Liberian. He said that while other nations may assist in Liberia's development programs out of kindness, Liberians must depend upon themselves, as they know people other than Liberians can effectively undertake the task of developing Liberia. The President was speaking Wednesday in Monrovia following his return from a 3-day state visit to Kuwait. President Tolbert, who lauded the good relations between Liberia and Kuwait, disclosed that as a result of talks held during his visit, Kuwait agreed to consider funding of proposed projects and feasibility studies for tree crop development and infrastructure improvement in Liberia. Formalities for concluding agreements covering cultural and technical, economic, and trade relations between the two nations, the Liberian leader added, are to be started shortly. Yesterday, April 13, was Fast and Prayer Day in Liberia and was so observed throughout the nation as a national holiday. The day was first set aside in 1883 by an act of the national legislature for fasting and praying for the safety and welfare of the Liberian nation and its people. In this light, President Tolbert issued a proclamation earlier in Monrovia calling on Christians in the country to assemble in their respective places of worship from 8 o'clock in the morning to 12 midday and therefrom to 6 in the evening, praying and worshiping God. Citizens and foreign residents alike observe the day and abandon their usual daily activities as a further recognition of God's love and guidance. A reminder that you are tuned to Radio ELWA, broadcasting from Monrovia, and this is the Liberian News Review. During the week, President Tolbert received messages of felicitations from the heads of state of Senegal and Saudi Arabia. In his message to the Liberian leader in response to an earlier message on the occasion of Senegal's independence anniversary, President Leopold Sedar Senghor said it was his wish that the links of cooperation existing between Liberia and Senegal will grow stronger for the consolidation of ECOWAS and the OAU. For his part, the leader of Saudi Arabia thanked Dr. Tolbert for his recent message to the government and people of that country while overflying en route to Kuwait. The message from the Saudi Arabian leader praised the good relations between Liberia and Saudi Arabia and hoped for more improvement in the relations. The Minister of Agriculture of the Ivory Coast, Mr. Denis Braconon, paid a 2-day friendly visit to Liberia during the week for talks on providing assistance to the Liberia Cocoa and Coffee Corporation. While in Liberia, the Ivorian Agriculture Minister held talks with his Liberian counterpart Florence Chenoweth. Minister Braconon was at the head of a 3-man delegation. 5 unidentified men died Thursday and 3 others, including a woman, were injured in a motor accident in Bangad-Bong County. The injured victims were later taken to the Phoebe Hospital, where they are presently undergoing medical attention. According to reports, the accident occurred when the blue and green Toyota truck driven by one Mohammed Siddiqui, marked TT17, which was traveling from Greenville, made an abrupt stop near a sign installed by the Pototoro Road Construction Company and turned over, leaving the 4 tires in the air. Driver Mohammed Siddiqui has been arrested and detained at the police headquarters in Banga City, while the bodies of the 5 unidentified men are at the John F. Kennedy Hospital in Monrovia. Meanwhile, Bong County Superintendent Joseph Yawate has sent a telegram to Sino County Superintendent J. Dominic Bing informing him of the accident. Bong County Representative Melvin Harris is dead. Representative Harris died on Tuesday at the Phoebe Hospital in Suwakoko, Bong County, after a brief illness. He was 71. He served as member of the House of Representatives from Bong County for 12 years. 7 officers of the Armed Forces of Liberia have been promoted to various ranks by Assistant Defense Minister for Militia Affairs G. Walton Tay on behalf of President Tolbert, who is Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Liberia. Lieutenant Colonel Prince N.A. Brown was elevated to the rank of Brigadier General. Others promoted from the rank of Colonel to Lieutenant Colonel were Stephen D. Vagbe, Erasmus Kwan, John San, James Harris, Eric Reeves, and Osman Fofana. Performing the ceremony in Saninkwele, Assistant Minister Tate told the officers that their assignment on the divisional staff was a very important one with the armed forces. On behalf of himself and his colleagues, General Brown thanked Minister Tay for the honor and asked him to convey their appreciation to President Tolbert for the preferment. He assured Minister Tay that they would adhere to their oath and defend the Constitution and state. The General Manager of the Lamco JV operating company in Yekepa, Nimbat County, Mr. Haynes Armstrong, has resigned. No reason has been given of his resignation thus far. The company's technical manager, Stan Foxman, has been appointed acting manager effective immediately. According to Lamco's Monrovia office, Mr. Armstrong, who is presently in Stockholm, Sweden, tendered his resignation last week, Wednesday, to the president of Grants International Mining in Stockholm, Sweden. Mr. Armstrong served as general manager for Lamco from January 1, 1977, till the day of his resignation, which was on April 7th. 12 business firms within the Monrovia area have been fined $5,000 each by the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Transportation for arbitrarily escalating prices during recent price freeze instituted by the Commerce Ministry. The business firms have been fined for violating the Commerce Ministry's Executive Order No. 2 on price controls and supervision, as well as prevention of hoarding, which was recommended to the President of Liberia last year. A cabinet decision reached on the recommendation demands that the violator be made to deposit into government's revenues the sum of $5,000. All business establishments have been officially informed of the decision. The governments of Liberia and Romania have signed an air service agreement in Monrovia. At the signing ceremony, which took place Thursday at the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Transportation, Liberia's Assistant Minister for Transportation, J. Wilson Lappner, signed for the Liberian government, while the Romanian Director of Foreign Relations in the Civil Aviation, Mr. Timbu Manoliu, initialed for his government. The final text to the air service agreement will be signed in the Romanian capital Bucharest at a later date. The occasion was witnessed by the Acting Minister of Commerce, Isomo Jones, who expressed gratitude over the agreement on behalf of the Liberian government. And finally, as we conclude this edition of the Liberian News Review, we once again bring you this important announcement. Effective this afternoon, a curfew has been called by the government of Liberia because of what was described as rampant vandalism, looting, and hooliganism. All persons are required to vacate or leave the streets and go to their places of residence. Anyone found in the streets, according to the Ministry of Justice, could be shot. There we end this edition of the Liberian News Review. Join us same time, same place next week for the same program. Your narrator and producer has been Jerry Williams, saying good night and have a nice weekend.
This is ELWA in Monrovia. In 1 minute, the time will be 9 o'clock, and we shall be bringing you this evening's request hour, your Saturday evening request program, just before the Easter sunrise service. You have tomorrow. We trust that we can play songs that will prepare you for the Easter sunrise service.